name's Leonard. Well, it's nice to meet you.
You know, it organically came into my life. It came as a producing opportunity. I think the premise of the book just stayed with me so much, and I started to kind of fall in love with the idea and just let my mind freely go to how would I tell this story, or what would be best for the story.
As Night sometimes does, he invited me along and then said, read the script and tell me what you think afterwards. And I read it. I was gripped from beginning to end. I was terrified.
He just takes you on this journey of your imagination, and who knows where your imagination is going to take you to. Probably in this, with this type of film, to the worst places. But I think overall, there's just a sense of not feeling safe.
When I read the script, I was breathless through the entire thing. I felt great anxiety and confusion and excitement and shock and horror.
And action!
Kind of combined two of my biggest nightmares, home invasion and the apocalypse. And yeah, I mean, it stayed with me a long time because I think it forces you to kind of put yourself in a situation and kind of think, what would you do?
You know, it's very unusual in that we had adapted a book to make this movie, but essentially went an entirely different direction around the midway point of the story. That weighed on me a little bit. Hey, I actually want the story, in my mind, the story needed and wanted to go this way very strongly. And in fact, that was the exciting part of the challenge is, can I make a movie about a very horrific Sophie's Choice? And can I get the audience there and to make that decision with the main characters?
It starts with a kind of a quiet, peaceful family, and, they're away at a cabin thinking that everything is proceeding as normal, and then suddenly something happens.
There is a family, and their home is invaded by 4 strangers who claim to have been sent by God. Have been asked to make a choice of sacrifice to save humanity, save the world from the apocalypse.
The story is just such an intense thing to get inside of, and to realize the journey that the characters are going to go on throughout in this very domestic, inescapable setting.
The skies will fall and crash to the earth like pieces of glass.
And God's fingers will scorch the earth. And an everlasting darkness will descend over humanity.
The idea of telling large-scale biblical stories, but in modern times and in modern settings, is resonating with me. Knock at the Cabin is this kind of incredible opportunity for us to experience this gigantic, global, biblical story, but just through the experience of a family of 3.
Right at the crux of it is a family, a really unique family that has gone through this world through a different lens, and they have to make a decision that's incredibly difficult.
You know, it was very important to us to cast openly gay actors in the 2 parts, and just telling a story that would normally just been told with a typical husband-wife story, and just having it told with these 2 people, super moving. I was saying, I was as a viewer watching as we shot this and made this, I was feeling things that I've never felt before for protagonists. I was seeing dynamics that were fresh and new. And then here, you're saying the line as you coming up, or you get up there, so you're whispering there? Sure. So that's the only thing I want to lift out of it.
We are pinching ourselves that we get to be in this, Hollywood horror movie as gay actors playing gay characters in an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Something that attracted me to it and that I love about it is that it's about a same-sex parented family, and they are central to the story. Their queerness is part of the story, but it's not the story. And then we have these biblical-sized themes in this domestic setting.
Eric and Andrew, in some ways, they're a partnership, but they represent 2 sides of the spectrum. Eric is very religious, he's Catholic, he's devout, he's a quote-unquote believer, and Andrew is more of a realist and more of a cynic, and he's definitely not religious. And so You have these two opposing perspectives in a very heightened environment with this kind of scary, kind of cult-like energy coming at them, and people saying absolutely extraordinary things to them.
The four of us are here to prevent the apocalypse.
The really interesting thing about this film is that you can be in a scene with an actor and you have like the opposite take on what is happening in the scene. Like if I try and discuss a scene with one of the four horsemen, the beliefs of the characters are so different that you can't analyze the scene together as actors, because we have to be like so firmly rooted into what our own character believes. And Andrew doesn't believe in the same thing that anyone else in this film believes in.
You know, you're trying to talk as if we're equals about, hey, you know, Ben, we've all had this dream about our family member dying. That doesn't mean you know anything.
The way that Eric is with the four horsemen, as we're calling them, in the cabin, trying to speak to them on their level, trying to empathize with what they're going through, trying to not get angry, but stay calm and slowly talk something out. These are qualities that I recognize in myself that I share with Eric. So there's certainly a lot of crossover.
I think the challenge for me is the choice that Andrew makes at the end of the film. But the whole movie is challenging. Like every day, in every scene, we're playing people who think they're about to lose their lives. And that's like a stressful place to, even though it's acting, it's not real, it's to kind of get your body in sync with that, and to feel that level of stress, to be kind of trying to create that level of stress on a set. That's a challenge. Keying into this story and having to think those thoughts that your life hangs so in the balance and in the hands of these other people, I think just the stakes of the movie are the challenge itself.
I tell people, like coming off of this film, I was either going to need a break or need therapy, because it is, or you're really diving into some deep emotions, trying to pull these out of you to make it a believable performance. But it is the tone of this movie and the nature of these characters are just very deep.
For the four of us coming into the cabin, we all wanted to make sure that we were on the same page about the visions that we were seeing and the message that we were trying to get across. Night was really helpful with that, and kind of getting us into that headspace of what exactly we're seeing and feeling and how overwhelmed we are.
You see, the four of us have a very important job to do. In fact, it might be the most important job in the history of the world.
It's on Leonard's shoulders to really lead us as the four messengers and to get the message across to Eric and Andrew. So we depend on Dave.
The role of Leonard is very specific. It's like a giant who's kind of innocent and physically intimidating and has to do these horrific things, but is actually incredibly gentle, like a teacher. And Dave is, when I met Dave is this character.
The character I play is just a loving, gentle giant. I appear to be maybe more physically menacing than I have in any other film, but the nature of my character is more gentle and more kind than any other character I've ever played. So there really is that contradicting things and it was hard because I didn't want to overplay it, but at the same time I need to really push it to a certain point where people would look past my physicality and believe that this guy is just the kindest guy you ever want to come across. And he's being forced to do things, terrible things, that are torturing him because they're not in his nature. He's gone completely against his nature, but he really believes that it's for a bigger cause. He's being asked by God himself to do these things.
That was so good. Everything about that one was great.
I couldn't get the glasses on my
That's so good.
Okay.
So good. So Leonard.
Essentially what we're experiencing, people would say we were crazy, and they would have every right to believe that. But these are people who not only have a belief, but they are hearing voices, they're experiencing supernatural events that they cannot explain, and they're driven by this force that's greater than them.
intentions, and Redmond is the exact opposite.
The four people who have to deliver this message to Eric and Andrew are normal people. They're normal people who are living lives. Sabrina is a nurse. She's a caring woman. She's someone who's close to her family. She's someone who didn't really have a belief in faith or God necessarily, and then one day started to have these supernatural visions that changed the course of her life.
I'm the youngest of the four, and I think that ended up, we found, really informed the character because she's trying to prove herself not only to herself but also to these three people who she's kind of looking up to.
There's a bit of Adrian that's also very innocent, you know, and I think she brings that to her. Look on the world is, I think, is more innocent maybe than the rest of the characters. When you put the four of them together, I think they represent, you know, a huge part of humanity.
Well, one last one, guys. One last one, if you're okay.
As performers, you know, Knight is challenging us. He's challenging us to push our own boundaries creatively, to have faith in him. He's having faith in us. You know, I think artistically that can be like just a really great breeding ground for creativity and inspiration, is to ask people to kind of go past their comfort zones.
One of you, one or two or three hits, and then let both of you settle for, you know, he tells me and then you back.
Okay.
Great. Okay, great. Here we go. Right away. Now we got it. We'll concentrate on the notes that I give you, okay? So keep your chin up, Kristen. Okay, keep your chin up. That's really important. What does this mean? The oceans will swell and rise up into a great fist and pound all the buildings and people into the sand and then drag everything out to sea. What does that mean?
I think because he knows exactly what he wants, tonally and shot for shot, he has everything mapped out and drawn out before we're even shooting, which I think is pretty rare. So in a way, having that structure and knowing that he knows exactly what he wants, it does allow a certain freedom, because you're not on set in the scene questioning what is going on. Does anyone know what's going on? Like, you know that you're supported by a very clear vision.
Whether it's Dave Bautista or Nikki or Rupert, trying to evoke out of them honesty and places that they didn't know that they would go to. We're all trying to aim at these characters and make them real.
I fell in love with this guy, you know, on our Zoom calls. Like, before he even offered me the part, we just kind of, I don't know, we just kind of clicked and connected. And I had so much respect for him. And I loved that he actually didn't see me as a big meathead. You know, he saw me as an artist, and that, like, means the world to me. It was a conversation that we had a few times before I even took on the role, and is that he would shoot me in a different way, and I would be a different experience from anything that I've ever had, and that he would give me plenty of time to perform.
So you could just focus in on that. Yeah, I felt that same way. He started to have life. He started to come in and become Leonard again. Exactly where Dave is in his life with his craft and his very unique combination of experiences that he's had and his vulnerability. I mean, he came to me and basically convinced me that he would do anything. And I believed him, that he would do anything for me, and he did.
Working with Knight was a different experience than I've ever had. He's just so precise in everything that he does, and down to the tiniest little word and how you say the word. It's you know, challenging it, but in like the best way, because I felt like this role would just make me a better actor, and it would prove a point, because I think nobody's ever seen me in this type of character before, but Knight really believed that I could play this character. It was a different experience from A to Z. I've never experienced anything like working with Knight, and I loved it, and I'd sign up again.
Honestly, Knock at the Cabin was the rarest of situations. You know, you're lucky if you have it once in your lifetime. You're super lucky if that happens, where all the actors and the seven main actors that we're talking about, the 3 family members and the 4 horsemen that come, that they all came for the right reasons. They were all exactly in the right place in their lives of exploration and risk and redefinition. It was an honor that they would allow me to conduct and ask the things that I asked of them and not protect themselves and say, you know, this is the way we're shooting. The camera comes around here. It's meant to do this. There isn't typical coverage. We're gonna rehearse like a theater, and I'm gonna hold you to everything. Okay, and cut. And cut. And cut. And cut. Not bad. Something in that world. Something in that world. Let's try it again. Back to one. Thank you. I want to feel that electricity in the performance, that unexpected thing of realness, and I want it 3 times. And why I want it 3 times is there's a relationship to everything that we're putting next to each other. That thing that was so beautiful, angry, or so beautiful, vulnerable, or so beautiful, soft, or scared, won't play with the previous scene or the previous thing. So the juxtaposition, it's always about the family and how they interact together. So I try to get at least 3 amazing takes of slightly different colors, so that I have a little bit of pliability, so that it wants to, this color versus this color creates this kind of experience. Sometimes, you know, you only get one that really has that electricity, and when I have to move on to another shot with that feeling that I have one, and it's rare that I would move on, I'm very nervous, because I know there's a high probability that won't be the perfect color against this other thing, and I have nowhere to go because I don't do coverage. Again, you still haven't done it the way you did it with me over there. Okay, and that's because you were really tense when you came over and you knew you were like, I was like, yeah, let's do that second to second. And in that one, then you kneel, put that down in front of you.
He kind of expects absolute kind of perfection, and it's brilliant because it really kind of forces you to, you can never really sit back and relax, even if you're in a scene and you're just sat in a chair in the background. There's always more to give, and he has such a great brain for knowing exactly kind of what that is.
He just sees every little detail, and his direction is incredibly specific, and it makes the experience so joyful for me and so surprising for me, which seems like a contradiction, but when things are set up so specifically, I feel like I can completely let go, which is part of what is making this experience so freeing and intense.
If we tell the story correctly, it'll go past the kind of shocking, sensationalist aspects of the story and go into something deeper and something moving and hopefully touching as well.
All of Night's films kind of, I think, encourage their audience to challenge their reality and what they believe in. And I think this film's probably doing that more directly than any film that he's made. It's kind of really asking its audience about faith and belief. And I think it's throwing up all these really direct, confronting questions that are like life's riddles. And they're like encapsulated in this unconventional, like domestic family setting.
Ultimately, whether the world ends or not, it's completely up to you 3.
It's a really compelling question at the center of it. What would you do if you had to save your family or save humanity, and you can only choose one?
What's interesting with Night is he always uses fear as an inroad to ask questions. You know, the hairs stand up on your arms. Like, even reading the script, you know, you could feel your heart racing. And so it kind of bypasses the intellect to get to a place of emotion, to get to a place of real feeling.
There's nothing you do if it's an apocalypse, it's the end of the world. It makes you feel very small. It makes you feel very unsafe. There is no place to run. There's no place to hide. So I think it's like layers of nightmares in this film. But I think, again, he just takes you on this journey of your imagination, just going to the worst places.
It is terrifying. This is one of those stories where immediately you start to think, if this was happening to me, what would I do?
I'm very drawn to stories of confinement, to trigger paranoia, suspense, a sense of helplessness, feeling of being trapped, that I don't have options, and telling very large stories through a small window. That constriction, that balance, a juxtaposition of the size of the story and the way we're telling it is very exciting to me.
One thing I am certain of is that he's asking a lot of questions. Asking us questions about faith, asking us questions about trust, asking us questions about family, and certainly asking questions about sacrifice.
It's just a really just fresh take on a thriller, you know, essentially what's a home invasion thriller, but still has that thought-provoking, big question at the center of it.
Movie making, especially going to the movie theaters, needs to be a very experiential thing at this point. Why do you leave your house and go to the movie theaters? Well, you want to have the deepest, most profound experience. And instead of getting something two-dimensional, you're seeing performances at the deepest level. They come in maybe with an expectation, and then they get this much broader, bigger, more complex experience than they could have possibly imagined. You know, this is my 15th movie, Knock at the Cabin, and I think the hope is the trust in me as a storyteller that I have to earn every time I make a movie, that is the context, and that you come in and you can experience a new color and look at something that maybe you wouldn't have gone to, or maybe you wouldn't have chosen to go, but you trust the relationship. That's the dream version of this journey of making all these movies.